Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So here's my Q&A video for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2, Episode 1, and I guess kind of Episode 2. Before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this, but let's just get into the first question here. So, Q&A, how will Daryl react to meeting Carol again, and what episode will they reunite? And who do you think will die more likely, Laurent or Isabel? In terms of your last question there, I would say that Isabel is most likely to die just because I think in terms of the promotion and all of that, it just makes a lot of sense for her to die. I think for Laurent, it's very hard to say where his story is going to go. Like, I hope that he doesn't die. And I hope that his story ends in a way where he can come back for a season 3 or 4. I think that'd be really incredible because you don't want to like completely lose all the connections to season 1 and 2. Like, that's sort of my concern about going into season 3 is that if they completely lose every connection to France, like in terms of like the characters anyways, obviously you're leaving France and so that makes a lot of sense, like a lot of the characters are going to be gone, but if there's not even a character or two from those arcs, it's going to feel very disconnected. And so for season 3, you want that, right? So I just hope that his story or like any other character's story ends in a way where, you know, he can be there for season 3 or 4. You know, even if it's something where he just says goodbye or something and he's staying in France, maybe he shows up in season 4 or like later on in season 3, right? But in terms of how Daryl will react to meeting Carol again, I think it is just going to be, you know, a very emotional scene. It's going to be very similar, I think, to, you know, past reunions and stuff because like they know how to build up those scenes. And so I expect it to be really great. I don't know what episode it's going to happen in. Episode 3 or 4 is sort of my prediction as of right now, but it's somewhere around there, I think. But Q&A, how will Carol break the news to Ash? That is really hard to say. I think that, I mean, however it happens, he likely will be upset about it. I mean, the way I'm sort of seeing it all play out is just there's going to be something where maybe they're running away from Madame Genet and Daryl and Carol are like trying to leave or something. And then they eventually go and see Ash. And then it's sort of revealed like, you know, well, that's not Sophia, right? Ash is just like, wait, what? Who's this? And then she has to explain, well, I came here to look for Daryl. He's my friend. He's my best friend. Like, yes, it's not my daughter, but still like he's that important to me. And then maybe Ash will understand, but I don't know where the story goes at that point. Like that's sort of how I'm predicting that the first sort of reaction to all of this. And again, I really thought Ash was going to die, but after watching episode 1, the fact that Carol lied about that, I think that's set up for the future. Like, I don't think he's going to die randomly in episode 2. So Q&A, do you think they should focus on the variant walkers for the future of the Walking Dead universe? Personally, for myself, I think they absolutely should do it. Yes, I do think for the variant walkers, they should definitely always have that aspect to it. I am expecting the Super Walker storyline to end at some point, you know, this season here, just because, again, they're going to Spain, unless the Super Walkers sort of take over France, but I just think because they are filming in Spain that it is going to be entirely different. I think that they will do something new, and I think the variant walkers will be a part of the story because I think that fans really do like that aspect to it. I think if they ignored that and just focused more on character story stuff, like obviously you want that, but the variant walker stuff is just so exciting. So I do want to see a lot more of that. I hope that there is some connections from season 2 to 3, but we'll have to wait and see. But Q&A, do you think Carol will tell Daryl that Rick came back and maybe a possible Carol/Rick cameo, and that's why Norman Reedus said episode 6 is the best 1 hour of The Walking Dead? I don't know if a Rick cameo would happen. I really do feel like, as exciting as that would be, I just don't see it happening, but I think that some mentions are possible. I mean, just based off of the fact that the early reviews out there aren't really mentioning anything in terms of a reveal for, you know, Rick making it back, I feel like Carol probably doesn't know at this point. And so, to me, you know, if Carol doesn't know, like, yes, that aspect to it of Daryl finding out about Rick, you know, that excitement is gone, but it's also still really exciting to think that Carol doesn't know about Rick, right? And so that means that Carol and Daryl are going to find out eventually that he's alive and he's back in Alexandria, right? Or I guess the Commonwealth or wherever he's staying anyways. And so to me, that's really great. Like, I want to see Carol and Rick reunite. I don't want that to happen off screen. And so if Carol already knows, then we might not ever see that scene. Like, that would just be, like, I would be so upset with that. That's kind of my worry about Dead City right now, is that Maggie and Negan already know that Rick is back, and so I want to see them reunite. And so if they already know, like, that's, I don't know, to me, I'd be really upset with that. I know that that show is set in the future, but I think that you could still sort of work around that. Like, maybe Maggie knows but never went to go and see them yet because she's still sort of like mad at Michonne, because if you remember Maggie and Michonne, they had some issues back in the day, right? So maybe they're just not really getting along right now. But in terms of Negan, maybe he just never really heard anything because he's been gone for a while, right? So Q&A, I was thinking about the disappointment of The Ones Who Live and how there hasn't actually been a single crossover in the spin-offs. Do you think the reason they're not doing it is actually because they want to create new stories rather than crossing over the same characters of Dwight, Morgan, Alicia, etc. with these new showrunners? Example, Zabel and AMC not wanting to retread old ground, and instead their main goal actually is appealing to new fans rather than fans of the existing show. If true, I think it's a mistake. I think that that's partially probably true. I think that they do want to sort of build up a newer story. I just think about what Gimple said, after The Walking Dead ended, which was like there was all this talk about like Rick and Daryl meeting and like a season 2 and like all these crossovers and this and that. And the first thing he said was, like for the season 1 of all these shows, like he really just wanted to focus on like building these shows up. And I do agree that I think in season 1 or even like season 2s of all these shows here, getting into crossovers right away would sort of take away from the show. Like you want to build it up. Crossovers will happen. Like there's no way that these shows are going to go on for 5-6 seasons and you don't have other crossovers happening, because crossovers are a really easy way to sort of build up excitement. And I think that's what they're waiting for. They wanted to do something else that was a little bit more exciting, focus on that. I think if they got into crossovers and stuff immediately, like it's not that exciting, right? Like if you just build up the story sort of naturally, focus on something else, have newer characters and everything, then everyone knows that as like the foundation or like the base level of what those shows are. And then you add in other characters here and there. And then I think that's where things could get really exciting. And so I do see Dwight eventually joining Dead City, because just for that story, it's too perfect. Like it makes so much sense. But I think getting into it after season 1 was probably a bit too fast, because I think season 2, like you do got to build up the world a lot more, and it looks like season 2 it's gonna get insane, and they are changing quite a bit of the story. Like they saw a lot of the criticisms for season 1, and so they've worked on a lot of that, and season 2 does feel like a reset is what they were saying. So I'm excited for that aspect of season 2, and I think that going into season 3 or 4 you could have crossovers. I think it's kind of difficult for Daryl Dixon to have crossovers because they are in France, or eventually they will be in Spain, but so Q&A, was it a bit too convenient that Carol saw a plane after finding out Daryl was in France? Also, did you know that Carol's scenes in episode 1 were filmed in France? They did a great job of making it believable that she was still in America. Love all you do. Thank you so much. Yeah, I did know that actually. That is really incredible. I saw the episode Insider and they were talking about that. I guess the location manager looked around everywhere in France and eventually found a place that looked somewhat like America. And yeah, to me, it looked like they were in America. So I thought, yeah, really great job. But in terms of the convenience of Carol seeing the plane, like after finding out that Daryl's in France, yeah, definitely. That was way too convenient. And I understand the criticisms of that. Like when I look at the season overall and I look at where there could be issues, that was always one aspect to it that I just thought was always going to be an issue. Like Carol somehow getting to France was always going to be somewhat unbelievable, because it was already unbelievable that Daryl was going to get to France, right? And I think they really explained Daryl getting to France really well. But for Carol to get there, like, I think they definitely went the route where it was a bit too convenient. Like, I think that if Carol just went on, one of the ships that Madame Genet was having go to America, like that would make a lot of sense, because that's how Daryl got there. That would be how Carol got there, right? But yeah, the whole plane aspect to it, I think, is definitely very convenient. Like, I think if you just had a scene there where maybe a couple of months went by or something, and again, they only have 6 episodes, they don't have time to do a lot of that. So that's my whole reason why I say a lot of the issues that the shows or the spinoffs have would be fixed with more episodes, right? So yes, I do agree. It was definitely too convenient, but they had to get Carol there. I'm okay with the explanation overall. Q&A, do you think the 6-year time jump was a mistake? No, I definitely don't. I think that they had to do that for the story overall, and you wanted to have Judith and obviously RJ, I guess we didn't even know existed back then, but to have RJ as a character, it was definitely the right refresher The Walking Dead needed, especially after Rick left. Like, you got to remember, after Rick left, I think if the story just continued around that same timeline, it would be very different, and a lot of the characters would have to like naturally be sort of mourning his loss, right? But jumping forward 6 years in the future, you would see them in different places where it's more, they're not necessarily mourning him anymore. Maybe they do miss him, but you can see everyone in a totally different place overall. So that's why I do like the 6-year time jump back then. Q&A, how would you feel if episode 5 of The Ones Who Live ended with Rick, Michonne, and Jadis going back to the CRM, and then in episode 6, Jadis destroyed all of the evidence in her room, and then Michonne was at the assembly, and Rick talks to Major General Beale, and then once he swears on the sword, he leaves. Jadis tells Rick and Michonne to warn everybody back home about the CRM. The finale would end with Rick and Michonne flying in a helicopter, landing in front of Alexandria, and they reunite with their kids, and the episode ends with some type of cliffhanger leading to a season 2. Yeah, I think that would be really cool, honestly. Definitely better than the ending that we got, but I just think that the way they want to tell stories is just very different. Like, I think that the next story with Rick and Michonne's not going to be CRM related at all. Like, I think that they will be a part of it because obviously that's just sort of out there. Like, Rick and Michonne are still kind of a part of the CRM in a way, but I think to focus on it as much as we wanted them to, I just don't think it was possible. Honestly, I think that they wanted to end the story here, and then for season 2, they want to do something entirely different. So as long as they're coming back, I'm okay with it, to be honest. So, but yeah, I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.